You're listening to Homeschool Unrefined. I'm Maren.
And I'm Angela. Let's encourage each other, laugh, and get real about homeschool.
Welcome to the podcast where we keep homeschool simple, real, and fun. You've got episode 72, where simple homeschool is our jam, with Jamie Martin.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to our podcast. We're so glad you're here. We love hearing from you. So thank you to all of you who have sent us messages or DMs or emails or whatever and introduced yourselves. We feel like we're getting to know you. So thank you so much. Just wanted to highlight a really great iTunes review we just got this week. It's titled My BFFs in My Head, which is kind of what we're going for. So I'm so glad.
That's great.
It says, my favorite thing about this podcast is that I walk away without a massive list of things I suddenly feel I need to buy. I feel like I'm enough for my kids and for myself and my kids. These ladies feel like my girlfriends and biggest cheerleaders. They genuinely love their listeners, and I feel it, and I feel so nourished by it. I feel like my homeschool looks nothing like theirs, but that is more than okay.
That is so good on so many levels. I love so many parts of that.
I know.
For one, I feel like it's great that we can all have different homeschools and then still feel like it doesn't matter. It's okay.
It doesn't matter.
We can all do different things and be here for each other all at the same time.
Right. Because
I just love that.
Because you need to be you.
Right.
So whatever that looks like is great.
Right. So I'm so glad she feels that way.
Yep.
For sure.
And I'm so glad she feels like she doesn't need to buy anything.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of what we're going for, too.
Yes. And ultimately, you are enough. You are enough.
Yes.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
Thank you for that wonderful review, friend.
Yeah. And if you feel compelled to write us a review, we would love that, too. So.
Oh, yes, definitely.
And thank you.
So, Angela.
Yeah.
I see that you got a new phone this week.
I did. Yep. Pretty exciting.
Yeah.
It's been like 3 years. Or 3 more.
Wow.
I don't even know.
That's a long time.
Yeah, I had an iPhone 6.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of, Jeremy and I are similar in this way where, like, we don't want to get the new thing. I mean, I want the new thing, but I don't want to spend money on the new thing unless I have to.
Yeah.
But this went, like, kind of way beyond that. Kind of took that to the extreme.
Yes. You guys did. I think, you both did.
Yeah.
It was like, didn't you have some cracked screens or I don't know? It was
no screen. But I had brought it in several times for a cracked screen to fix it. I know.
That's right.
Yeah, and Jeremy's like he had to wiggle it to charge it, like to get it to click to charge. So it had to be just right, laying down just right.
Yeah,
and
so sometimes it didn't charge.
Yeah, and then he doesn't care. He'll just like have a nearly dead phone all the time. That really bothers me. I care about that. So
yeah.
So finally I was like, you need a new phone and I need a new phone. Let's go do it. But it's a long process.
Oh, it is such a long process.
Yeah.
I mean, just going in to do it is what holds me up.
Yeah.
Really.
I know.
More than
That's
anything.
what he said too. That's why he hasn't done it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and then I realized the other night that I'm sorry, but I have the same phone as you and the same case and and color.
Angela, I'm not even surprised about those things anymore. We gravitate towards the same things so often.
Well, I knew I wanted the wallet case.
Yeah, we both had wallet cases.
I had a different wallet case before, which I really liked, and then I got an iPhone 8, and they didn't make it in that kind. So I had to get a different wallet case. So the only other option was the one you had, which I knew you had it.
I know.
And then so I ordered it. And then once I ordered it, my color, I was like, oh, I think it's the same color too.
It is.
And then I saw you the other day and you're like, wait, did you get the same case and color as me? It's like, yeah.
Interesting.
Sorry.
No, I think that's great.
It's a nice one. I mean,
it is. It works really well. It's really cute. And the thing is with phone cases, I like the wallet, but I don't want the flap over. I can't do that. The flap over wallet. Where it
like a
covers.
real wallet.
Yeah, like a real wallet. I don't like that.
Yeah,
but and it has to hold, at least, I want to say 3 cards.
Yeah,
at least.
I know.
And it's so rare. So there's like one case you can get.
Yeah.
Yeah. So What are you gonna do? Yeah. So are you glad you got new phones?
I'm glad I got a new phone.
Speaking of that though, with the charging thing, I am like you. If once my phone is at like, I want to say 50 some percent.
Did you say 50 or 15?
50.
50. Okay.
Once it gets to 50 or lower, or about 50.
Yeah. I
like to get it charged up.
Me too. I like to bring that up a little bit. Bring it up past 50.
Yeah.
You never know when you're going to need it.
No. And what if you're gone all day?
I know.
But here's my trick, my little tip to save power. I know there's lots of ways to save power, but there is an actual, if you go to settings, to battery, you can change it to low power mode.
Oh.
And it just does less things. Like it just in the background of your phone most of the stuff you don't need it to do most of the time anyway. So I usually just put it on low power mode.
I am going to find that because I'm turning it on right now.
Yeah. It's so great. It's just what it doesn't do in low power mode is it doesn't grab your email all the time.
Oh, right.
Things like that. It doesn't check everything all the time. It doesn't update every single thing all the time. So, I don't need that anyway.
I'm totally doing that. Oh, and then your little battery sign turns yellow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And it does that if you go 20% to 20%. It'll ask you.
Goes to you.
It'll ask you, do you want to go to low power mode since you're so low?
Yeah, okay.
But you can do it anytime.
Good to know.
I know.
That's awesome.
Little tip.
Yeah. So last week we talked about shoes, and I just had to update everybody.
Oh, yes. Let's do that. These are important conversations.
This is really important.
It is, actually.
We didn't know about... Well, maybe you did. I did not know about what are they called?
No-show socks.
No-show socks.
Yeah.
Did you know about those?
I knew about them, but I didn't know how prevalent they were. Is that accurate? I just didn't know that was what everybody was doing. I knew they were around.
Yeah.
But
thank you to everybody who told us about no-show socks. And they have a no-slip bottom.
I did not know that.
Yeah. I went and ordered some.
And here I was wearing really low socks. I've been wearing low socks, like super low socks, but you can still see them.
Not the right kind. Not the right kind.
No.
It's a little embarrassing. Just kidding. It's not.
It's not.
Depends how low your shoes are.
Yeah. I know. I'm sure most people looked at me and they were like, she got close.
Close enough.
Close, but not quite. It's okay.
Should I tell her about the no-show socks? No.
So I haven't gotten any shoes though, have you?
No.
Did you order any shoes?
No. I've just been wearing my Toms with no socks, but now I'm going to wear them with socks. The no-show socks.
I know. Definitely. It's gonna revolutionize. But I still do want a pair of shoes that would be slightly warmer than Tom's. A little bit warmer.
Yeah. Maybe with a sole.
Yeah.
Kind of some support.
I know. My kids all told me they wanted slip-on shoes, just slip-on shoes. I think that's just the thing to get now. Slip-on
with
shoes.
Ties?
No.
Again, I don't know.
Can't. No, it's all right.
Tell me what the kids are wearing these days.
I'm here to tell you. I think of them as boat shoes. They're like boat shoes.
Okay, I still don't know what that is.
Okay.
Loafers?
Yeah, they're kind of like loafers, but canvas.
Yeah. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I'm picturing canvas.
Yeah,
when I say loafers, I mean canvas.
Okay. Yeah, so my son was showing me a pair of Vans that he would like.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then I was like, oh, I kind of want those. That's what I want.
Do you care if we...
I know. Oh, my goodness.
You told me you wanted Converse slip-ons.
I do.
And so then I was like, oh, maybe I should get those, which I can't because you said it. We can't have everything the same. But then I told my daughter and she was like, no, that would be embarrassing.
For you to have Converse?
Yeah, because all my kids wear Converse.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That is great. Okay.
All right, so before we move on to our guest this week, we wanted to just remind you that Maren and I actually later this week we're recording a bonus episode because we have a lot of new listeners.
Yes.
And a lot of them have said that they can't tell us apart.
Yep.
So
we're gonna
fix that. We're gonna attempt to fix that and like do a get to know us bonus episode. So even if you've been around a while, you might learn some new things.
Too bad we can't have a picture that pops up. Whoever's talking, a picture of us pops up so they know who is talking. But
right. I think it'll take a couple episodes to get to know us, but hopefully this one will help.
And also follow us on Instagram because we did an introductory post last week, and we'll do more of those.
Yeah, we'll try and do more of those.
So yeah. All right. Our guest this week is somebody you probably know because if you've been in the homeschooling circle at all, you've read or seen an article from simplehomeschool.net. Jamie Martin is the editor and writer at Simple Homeschool, and she's been doing that for years and been doing such a wonderful job. We love reading her things. She's so encouraging. She's written a book called Give Your Child the World, which we also love.
Yep.
Just a resource of great books from around the world and about people of all different cultures.
Right.
So we love so much about her. And this conversation was so encouraging, and I just loved talking with Jamie. So enjoy.
Hi, Jamie.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, we're so excited to talk to you.
I'm excited too.
For our listeners who don't know you, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your family and your work?
Sure, I'd love to. I'm the mom to 3 teenagers as of just last week.
Wow.
So now all of my kids are teens, which is pretty crazy. Right now they are 13, and 14.
Wow.
Which requires just a little bit of explanation since they do not have twins. So there's my biological son, Jonathan. He joined our family first, and he's one of the 13-year-olds. And then came our son, Elijah, who we adopted from Liberia, West Africa, as a baby. And he's the one that just turned 13 last week.
Okay.
And then the third child to join our family was our daughter, Trishna, who we adopted from India. And she came home at age 4, and then she became our oldest child.
Yeah.
He is the 14-year-old right now.
Wow.
So we just, are very interesting.
Yeah.
And 3 teens is interesting and fun and with a bit of craziness thrown in, of course. And my husband, Steve, and I will be celebrating our 20th anniversary this year.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you. I know.
It's exciting.
Yeah. We live in Connecticut where I work homeschooling the kids. And then I'm also the editor of simplehomeschool.net. And I've been blessed to be able to write a few books. My latest release was called Give Your Child the World, Raising Globally Minded Kids, One Book at a Time. And it's a book about books, which is just one of my favorite types of books. And with the goal of helping moms and dads use the most inspiring children book titles out there to give their kids a multicultural perspective of the world. So, we do.
Yeah, I actually used that book, and we've talked about it on our podcast several times, but I used it last year, all of last year, for I called it history, like our history curriculum, but it wasn't really history. It was more like cultural curriculum.
Yeah.
So I just used it to pick out all of our picture books mostly. Got them from the library, and that's what we read during Read Aloud.
Wow.
So thank you.
Thank you. That's so exciting. That is just really special.
Yeah. It's so nice to have a book like that that's just chock full of resources.
Yeah.
That you can just pull out, and it's right there for you.
Right.
And I also loved how you wrote in the beginning your story too about how you got to this place where you know all these books. And I found that fascinating too.
Yes, right. It was just kind of born of necessity from our own global family, and I love that it's then been able to help other families too. So thank you so much for the kind words.
Yeah. So, Jamie, we love talking personality on our podcast. We've had a few episodes. Yay! And we love talking with other people about personalities. Do you know your Myers-Briggs? I'm assuming you do, since you love talking about it.
I do.
Or your Enneagram or your Gretchen Rubin's tendencies?
I know all of them.
Yay!
All right.
Yeah. So on Myers-Briggs, I'm an INFJ, which is known as the advocate, I think. And people tend to say that that's like the rarest personality type, but I don't really know if that's true or not. I feel like maybe that's something an INFJ started because to make them to make us feel more special.
Well, I do know the introverted intuitive. I think that's what you lead with, right? And so I think that is probably I think that can be rare to see that. It's a very interesting way to lead, you know?
Yeah. So that's my Myers-Briggs. And then on the Enneagram, I'm an Enneagram 4.
Oh, okay. Yes.
The individualist.
Yes.
And Gretchen Rubin, that one I have never been able to tell for sure. I know that I fall between a rebel and a questioner. I think one of you is a rebel and one a questioner. Is that right?
Yes. Yes. Okay. I'm a rebel.
And I'm a questioner. Yeah.
Okay. I feel like I'm like borderline or maybe a bit more towards the rebel with a lot of questioner thrown in. But that one has been a little bit harder for me to figure out exactly. But anyway, it gives you an idea.
Yeah.
That one is hard to figure out just by answering questions. I think you really have to think about situations too, and
right.
It's just not quite as clear cut, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
And she does say in her book that you can be both. You can be like a rebel tipping towards a questioner or a questioner tipping towards a rebel. So
I looked at that. I did look at her book, so I was kind of feeling okay about being borderline. But since I'm a rebel, then I really don't care anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
They're both good. They're both good things to be. I mean, I'm a questioner. I have a few rebel tendencies, and I like it.
Yeah.
Right.
I think rebels are probably more drawn to homeschooling because they're just like, don't tell me what I have to do. Don't tell me I have to go to school.
Pretty much, yes. That's about it.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So, Jamie, you mentioned that you are the editor at simplehomeschool.net. How did you get started doing that?
I got started. I had been blogging for about a year, way back when. So this was in like 2009. I had a blog called Steady Mom that I was writing. And then after about, 9 months or so of that, I was contacted by Tish Oxenrider, who writes The Art of Simple. And back then it was called Simple Mom. She asked me if I would be interested in working with her to create a new site that she had an idea for that would be called Simple Homeschool.
Okay.
So, and I was super excited about the opportunity, but it was also a real step of faith for me because my kids were so little back then and homeschooling was really new to us. So I think the kids were 7, 6, and 5 when that happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I had a lot of ideas, but I felt like a total newbie and like I didn't know what I was doing.
Right.
And that really influenced the style of Simple Homeschool, which is just kind of casual, like we're here to support each other, but we don't know what we're doing, but that's okay.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's been going for about 8 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, that's exciting. I was just telling Maren before we got on, I used to read your blog before I homeschooled.
Really?
Yeah, because I followed Tish, and so I was just like, I'll read this one too. And that was back when I thought homeschooling was kind of weird, you know?
Yeah, right.
But still, I was drawn to reading about it. So it probably influenced my decision to do it. So
wow, that's pretty cool. And how long have you been homeschooling now?
Well, officially, let me think, because we homeschooled part-time since my daughter was in 1st grade, and now she's in 7th. That was my oldest. So she went to a half-time kindergarten, and then in 1st grade we started part-time. So I don't know, 6 or 7 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Jamie, the title of your online community, as you said, is Simple Homeschool, which really resonates with us because when we started this podcast, we kind of had that same idea. We want to make sure that parents feel that they can simplify. It doesn't have to be complicated, right? And so I'm just wondering, can you tell us a little bit more about what that means to you? What does simple mean to you? And what kind of message or encouragement would you really like to send to homeschool parents?
Okay, well, I think that to me, Simple Homeschool and what I'm trying to do with the site is to really free people from the concept of doing school at home.
Right.
And to just help them really come to grasp with the freedom that they now have to create something unique that works for them and what they need in that moment for their family and their unique needs. So to me, simple means finding what works for you and not being laden to make it look like the school down the street, your favorite blogger, anything, right? There's no one way to do this that it's going to work for everyone. And that can be terrifying when you're in that transition time of trying to find that one way. And I think even when I started Simple Homeschool, for me, I was so insecure in my own trying to find my way that I think I was trying to find others to also agree that my way was like the way. So,
right.
You know, because it just makes you feel a little bit better. So that freedom can sometimes be a little scary, but when you finally embrace it, I think then you open yourself up to a whole new world.
Yeah, that is so good. And I think there is definitely a transition time for everyone.
Yeah.
And that can be, a short period of time or a very long period of time for some people. And I think it takes somebody like you to have a blog to tell people, like, this is okay. It's okay to try something new or make it your own.
Yeah.
And I think some people, I mean, me in particular, I needed that permission,
right?
From somebody to just say, make it your own.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to look like school, like a traditional school. It's okay.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, and I think that, when we first start out, we're all about, okay, help me find the philosophy that is going to change my life, make it easy, make it less scary. And so we're trying to figure out, are we Montessori people, or are we Charlotte Mason people, or are we textbook classical people, or and over so many years, I've just really realized through what I've seen from other people as well as our own experience that I really feel now that it just doesn't matter what you choose, as long as you have a few key things in place. And those are, to me, one, that you're paying attention to your kids. So not just like not ignoring them, but that you're sensing, you're trying things, and then you notice what is working, what's not working, like what feels good, what feels terrible, what is scary, what is peaceful, like all of those things.
Yep.
And that's all the time. Of course, that's not something you can just do once and then let go of. So alongside that, then if you are willing to change, we can never put some philosophy above our own kids, right? We can never become the flag bearer for the unschooling movement, and then leave our kids by the wayside. Like, they have to come first, which means we have to be willing to go from unschooling to textbooks, or from textbooks to unschooling, or from because we are putting relationships above checkboxes.
Right. Yeah. That is so good.
And if we do that, then I think that really any philosophy will work beautifully for you if you just kind of have those things in mind.
Yes. And I have found that I need to place my energy into focusing on listening to my kids more than energy on doing all the research online on how I get them to figure out this math or something, you know.
Exactly.
It's just much more effective.
Yeah. But sometimes we don't feel like listening to them.
Right. It's so
and
true.
because it feels hard or scary or whatever. And so I think that I've found myself more than once, or more than 100 times probably, Googling something because it still feels like work, right? It still feels legitimate, absolutely. Like you're trying to figure something out, but it doesn't always get me anywhere compared to just trying to be brave in the moment and figure out what do we really need now and here, and then having the courage to try something.
Right. That is so good.
Yeah. So speaking of like educate or homeschool philosophies, you have talked before on your blog, I've seen, about Thomas Jefferson Education. And I don't think many people know much about it. In fact, you're probably the only person I've seen write about it. So I was wondering, but every time I do read about it, I think that sounds cool. That sounds amazing. So I would love for you to talk more about that.
I would love to. Sure. I'll just share the story of how I discovered it.
Okay.
Way back when. It was when I was just considering homeschooling. So definitely even before my kids were old enough to begin, which means it has to be at least a decade ago now. And I was browsing a lot of homeschooling forums at that time. And I had investigated the philosophies quite a bit and figured out which ones I resonated with a little bit, which ones I didn't. The idea that there were other philosophies of education was like actually new information to me. The idea that there was anything beyond like the regular school way.
Right.
It's like my mind had been blown. And now there were all these possibilities, and that was really exciting. And I loved the idea of unschooling. That kind of concept resonated with me in a lot of ways, but some parts didn't. And then late one night, I was reading a homeschooling forum online, and someone mentioned Thomas Jefferson Education, which is also sometimes referred to as leadership education or TJ Ed, which comes from the initials there.
Right.
And it suddenly just, as soon as I read a little overview of it, I realized that for me at that time, it really connected the dots of what I loved about these other philosophies and then kind of giving a structure to how to implement them. So for us, up until this point, it's kind of worked as a sort of organized unschooling as an interesting way to kind of to think of it. But the goal of it, and this is also the bit that I really loved, is recognizing that each person in the world, each person in our family has like a purpose, a mission, something to do in the world, which doesn't mean it has to be something huge or lofty, but just that the reason that we learn is to be able to contribute to others, right? So it's not just about us. And the concept behind, like when you think of leadership education, it's really about getting ready for the work that you are to do in the world.
Yes.
So that part of it really resonated with me and made me excited, because that was what drew me to homeschooling. What I really hoped for our kids was that they would know that God put them on the planet for a reason, and that there was something special for them to do here, and a unique way for them to offer something that no one else could offer in the same way.
Yeah. So how does that go along? I know you said it can kind of go along with unschooling, or it's unschool friendly. How does that work?
Yes. Well, I'll explain a little bit about it. It goes with the phases of childhood development. Okay. So it is a developmental philosophy. So the early years are divided into, let's say, the years from typically 0 to 18, what we would consider like childhood, are typically divided into these three phases according to leadership education. The first is called core phase, and that would be like your 0 to 8-year-old. So you're like early elementary and early years, right? Yeah. And the focus during those years is not academics. Instead, it's more like the most important core things for being a person in the world. So love and family relationships and closeness and then just learning good and bad and things that go along with things that you often find as you read alouds, right, and picture books. And so those things are to be the focus with the idea that most of the learning during that time is done through play. Not that it necessarily is devoid of academics, but the academics are like approached with a playful spirit. So you have a little guy who loves workbook pages and thinks that they're awesome, and that would never be like discouraged, but it also wouldn't necessarily be like assigned, right? It would be in a playful idea.
Absolutely. And kids that age especially really do learn through playing. That's just like their main form of learning. So you can see how that kind of really fits in with a lot of other philosophies too, not just unschooling, but like Waldorf and Charlotte Mason. And those were also philosophies that appealed to me a lot. And so I saw TJ Ed as, that it really allowed me to integrate lots of those things that my heart was naturally drawn to. That just sounds wonderful.
So that was our kind of core phase experience. And then between, say, like 8 to 12, but of course this was very unique and different for each child. They call that phase love of learning. And so the goal for that phase is really to fall in love with learning, with the idea that a child who has a firm love of learning will then, go on to be able to study hard and work hard and do the things in a way that's self-motivated.
Sure.
So I would say that, typically the learning during that phase, love of learning, is still mostly play driven, but it starts to look a little bit more like school. Mainly from the child's motivation, right? So schooly things start to feel and seem interesting.
Right. And that makes sense because my kids are 11, 9, 9, and 7.
Okay.
And I can see where my 11-year-old would totally she gets more excited about doing schooly things than playing right now when we're at home.
It's interesting how like play, because that whole idea, and I remember wondering about it, like the whole, like, if you just let them play, aren't they just always going to want to play and they're never going to want to do anything else? But actually I've seen like, no, actually they like want to do other things.
Right.
They know that play is an option.
Right. And I think it kind of meshes together, this play and work. It becomes like my work is my play, and my play is my work.
Yes. And I guess that's that's hopefully the goal, and we're ahead with it. So
that sounds wonderful.
Yeah. And for us also, having built our family through adoption, I think that's another reason why this was such a lovely fit for us, because it really enabled us to focus on relationships and attachment, which was so crucial. And I could just tell that, kind of academics during those years were not the most important things that we needed to focus on, and that they were really going to get in the way of what was truly most important. So I think that really drew me to this as well.
Yeah, that's so good. And so much learning happens when all of your basic needs are met too.
Yes, right.
And
right. Yeah.
You can learn so much easier.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So then, so after love of learning phase, the idea is that, and in theory, these are supposed to, like, one phase naturally leads to another developmentally. So it's not supposed to be like, okay, you're 8, and so you've graduated to love of learning phase, right? It's supposed to be organic. And after love of learning phase would come then scholar phase, which would be, it really varies, but the idea is like that would be your kind of upper middle school, high school type phase, the phase that really looks more like school. And I think this for me was the piece that fit, whereas the idea of total unschooling for me, what didn't connect completely, because I really loved the idea of a more kind of classical education, but one that goes with developmental phases. And so this is that. And so scholar phase, we're still like, I don't have a child that's fully in scholar phase, but I have two that are in like transitioning from love of learning to scholar phase.
Yeah, sure.
And it's just really interesting and fun to watch this actually work, and that it really is.
It really works.
It really is doing something. I think so many people have that experience of like thinking with their homeschool, this is the grand experiment, and who knows what is going to happen,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah, when you started this, when your kids were young, were you thinking, we'll go through till the end, or were you thinking, well, we'll just see how this goes?
No, yes, I was definitely thinking, oh my gosh, we'll just do like a year at a time, or right. But I will say that that probably a couple of years ago, I feel that at first the idea of doing a year at a time was comforting.
Yep.
But then maybe 5 or so years ago, actually, it was the idea of committing to homeschooling long term that felt more comforting. Yeah. Sure. So it's interesting how that changed for us. And we would always be open, because like what I said about being willing to change, if we felt like one of our kids would best be served elsewhere, then we would totally want to be open to that always. But in general, I think we feel very happy with what we're doing, and the kids feel happy with what they're doing.
Yeah,
so
that's great.
Yeah, so that just is what works for now.
So in the scholar phase, is that still more child or student directed, or are you directing some of their academics?
Yeah, that's a great question. The idea is that you really work with a mentor, and so for most of your life, your mentor is your parents. But of course, during those years, it's very helpful to have outside mentors. And because you're just kind of wired for that during adolescence, right?
Right.
And yes, so it's kind of a collaborative effort, right? Okay. So let's talk about what you're thinking, your goals for this year, or, you understand now that you're reaching like what would be high school. So do you want to make some choices about what that's going to look like for you? Depending on what your goals might be for the future, or the things that you want to have open to you. And then sometimes, I will definitely, I'm not like against the idea of nudging my kids toward something. Sure. I think we can become so almost like held in bondage by our philosophy, which is funny because we actually chose it, but then it's like, and it's like it becomes the boss of us. And so we're like, oh my gosh, this is supposed to be developmental and child-led. And now if I say, I think you should do this worksheet today, then like, I've ruined it. And over the years, I've just gradually become a bit more confident and just really owning my feelings and trusting myself and my instincts, and thinking, okay, you know what? I really do think that you should do this today, or I really think that you should consider trying this, or have you thought about blah, blah. So I just think it really is, that's not a prescription, right? There's no magic formula. It's just about having the guts to try something. And like I'm always telling my kids, we learn best through mistakes, and that goes for moms too. So let's just try something and see it fail spectacularly, and then we'll be able to know that didn't work. So let's do it a different way, instead of being so afraid of making a mistake and so afraid of messing up.
That is so good.
So is there like a manual that you're using for this, or a book, or?
Yeah,
what is guiding you?
That's a good question.
There have been a lot of books written about it. So those definitely were the predominant way I learned about it at the beginning. So there's a great book called Thomas Jefferson Education, which kind of is an overview of the philosophy in general. And then there's a more hands-on book called Leadership Education, The Phases of Learning, which kind of describes so that when you have the question, okay, I really like the idea of core phase, but like, what do you do?
Yeah.
Right? So this gives ideas about like, what do you do during the different phases and what you look for and how to inspire, not require, which is kind of one of the things that they talk about, and principles like that. So it focuses a lot on classics, like using the classics. And so it's a really good fit for people who feel drawn to classical education, but maybe are not drawn to the memorization and the early years of that method, because it focuses a lot on classics and using them as a family, which is a natural passion of mine anyway, because I just always loved literature, and that was definitely another thing that made it a good fit for us.
Right.
Yeah.
So good.
Jamie, you wrote a piece for your blog last fall called Essentialism for the Homeschool Parent, and it really resonated with me because I had read the book Essentialism, I think by Greg McKeown. Is that right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And I thought, and then you talked also about being a highly sensitive parent in there. And it was like kind of a merging of all these different things in my life, homeschooling and being highly sensitive and essentialism. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. And so I would love if you could share that with our listeners, what you talked about in that piece.
Sure. I wrote that post out of it came out of a day when I had just totally kind of run myself into the ground again, emotionally, physically, and thinking just, how did I get here again as a highly sensitive person, who is drained by sensory overwhelm, right?
Yep.
As well as an introvert who is drained by too much people time. And so then homeschooling is like the perfect storm of all of those things.
Yeah.
And I had also read Essentialism and found it really helpful, but I was thinking, there's a disconnect here. There's something I'm missing, because it was so hard to navigate in the moment, right? In the heat of the moment. And what I realized, is that when we write our to-dos, we're really focused on the practical side of what we can see needs to be done, right? In that post, I called those seen essentials, the things that you see that you know you need to get to. But then what I realized, and it was a bit of an aha for me, was that as homeschool parents, we also carry this completely other side, which is what I called unseen essentials. And those are all of the like emotional things that just can derail our day. It might be a child's emotional needs, meaning something that comes up, a discipline thing to address, or just a bad attitude. And then we have our own things, and those are essential. Like, we cannot ignore them.
Right. Exactly.
Without a painful consequence, right?
Right.
And I just realized that those are so draining. But a typical to-do list can never take those things into account. Right. And so the post that I wrote, and then the printable that I helped to design, was kind of a tracking system, a series of questions to ask yourself to help figure out, is what I'm dealing with, what I'm getting ready to do, what I'm handling, truly essential in this moment. And if it is, then of course you need to do it. If it isn't, then what can you shelve that? Can you pause on that? And I think that the biggest takeaway for me was that there were some things that I would get just the urge to do during my day. And so I think in this post, it was an example of beginning to organize my kids' fall clothing or something like that. The wardrobe switch out.
Yes.
I absolutely despise doing.
Yeah, me too.
And somehow this day I actually felt like, okay, I think I can get started with this. And so I did. But knowing from years past that it is really draining to do that, I hadn't taken into account the other things that were also going to be essential later in the day. And instead of conserving energy for those, I had spent my energy on this task that is known to be draining to me. And it just wasn't the wisest choice. And so I ended up just making this kind of, it's almost like a flow chart. Is that what you call these? Where it's like, if you answer yes, go here. If you answer no, go here. And it just gave me a visual representation of trying to figure out, is this the best use of my energy, or do I need to conserve this energy for something that I know is going to be coming later today?
Right. That was great. Because doing that wardrobe switch out, I mean, that can be done, the next week, probably, or, on a weekend.
Yeah. And it was one of those things that felt, it hangs over you.
Yeah.
And it feels like it really is essential, but really it wasn't in that moment on that particular day. And it's just that trial and error kind of learning that we do so often.
Yeah. Yeah.
So good. So we can print that out and put that up on our cupboard and look at that every day.
Yep.
We'll post a link to that in our show notes.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I could use that flow chart right now, today. Well, thank you so much, Jamie, for being part of our podcast. We have really benefited from all your wisdom for so many years. Reading simplehomeschool.net, and it's just really great to talk to you in person.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed connecting with you both.
Great. I know we mentioned your blog. Are there other ways that people can find you all around the internet?
Sure. My Facebook page is also called Simple Homeschool, and it's really active. And then I'm on Instagram at Jamie_C Martin.
So, all right. Great.
Yeah.
All right. We'll put links to all of that in the show notes. So thank you so much, Jamie.
Perfect. Thank you too.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Let's move on to what we are loving this week.
Yes. LTW.
Maren. Yeah. Maren, what are you loving this week?
I am loving my sunglasses.
Oh.
And I usually get cheap sunglasses, and these are also cheap. They're from Target.
Okay.
And they're just they're wood looking sunglasses.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
I do. I like your sunglasses too, and I again was thinking that I might want them, but I'm not going to.
Okay.
So don't worry. But no, I did admire them.
You can get them because I think they are the best pair there for me. I just love them. And I get a little picky about sunglasses because I can't wear the big sunglasses.
Oh yeah.
And that's the thing right now. I think that's
Is it?
Again,
we should ask our kids.
Yes. Oh yes. Or our listeners. They probably know more. But I think bigger the better. But for me, I can't, my face just doesn't look good. So I found these. They're the right size for my head, and they're wood colored. They're definitely not wood sunglasses. They're plastic. Yeah. But anyway, so I've gotten some compliments on them. Like, people have thought they're super expensive.
Oh.
Sunglasses.
All right.
I know. So I'm like, I don't know how I did that, but hey.
Did you just walk into Target and find them?
Yeah.
You didn't get them online? Yeah.
Nope, I didn't get them online. Just walked right in.
I haven't seen them at Target because I've gone twice this year because
really,
if I get one little scratch on my sunglasses, they're done. Yeah. I can't wear them anymore. It's like all I can think about when I'm looking out of the sun. So I've gone a couple times to get sunglasses and I have not seen those. But, so they must be popular.
Maybe they are. Maybe they've run out quickly. I don't know. And I don't remember which store, you never know.
Yeah, maybe you can find a link online. We'll see.
I will look. I will definitely look for sure. Yes. How about you, Angela? What are you loving this week?
Well, I'm loving a new show.
Oh.
It's not that new, but it's well, it's fairly new, maybe a year old, called Queer Eye.
Yes.
Have you heard of it?
No, yeah, I have, but I haven't watched it yet.
Well, there's a new version. It
Yeah,
used to be
well,
Queer Eye for the straight guy.
yeah.
Now it's just Queer Eye,
Mm-hmm.
which I have figured out with our, like, trying to find it on our Fire TV.
Oh, right, right.
Yeah. So
were
it's
you
just Queer Eye.
searching? Were you searching Queer Eye for the straight guy?
And I
it
kept
never
getting the
showed
old
up.
one. Yeah, I kept getting the old one.
Gotcha.
You have to search just Queer Eye.
Right.
Anyway, so it's these 5 gay guys who try and make over a straight guy, basically.
Yeah.
And I never watched the old version. And I wouldn't have been interested in this version, probably. Except that I heard a couple places, online probably,
Yes.
that it was really heartwarming.
Yep.
So I'm into heartwarming.
Yes, you are.
I'm into heartwarming
It's true.
reality shows.
Yeah, that is true.
So, and it is very heartwarming.
Yeah.
And I'm watching it with the kids, and it's perfect for us because it's something that all the family can watch together.
Yeah, right.
But I just have to give a warning. You might not want your kids to watch it. There's some swearing.
Oh, okay.
There's lots of swearing. There's
Okay.
a few innuendos that
Yeah.
kind of go over my kid's head,
Sure.
but I'm okay with it because I like
Yeah.
the heartwarming
Yeah.
aspect, and
Yeah.
so I'm okay with that. But you might not be. And I saw it said 14 TV 14, which must mean 14 and up. So yeah, so it's
Yeah.
it's for adults. But anyway, it's really good because what I really like about it is that it usually brings together people from different cultures,
Right.
and
Exactly.
they get to know each other,
Yes.
and they're talking,
Yeah,
and
that
they
is
start
so
to
great.
like each other,
Yeah.
and it's just so great.
It's
I
so
love
great.
to see it. It's heartwarming.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And-
I've heard from so many people that it's great. And
Yeah.
I remember the show that was on NBC, I think it was, like 10 years ago or something.
Yep.
And I mean, I think it was great. I used to watch that one actually.
Oh, you did? Okay.
And I liked it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't, I don't know if it got like the buzz, and maybe just because it's, on Netflix now, it's just a different,
Yeah.
It's just a different forum or,
Yeah.
different way to get out there. So, but I feel like so many people are talking about it now.
Right. You've heard about it too? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
I've seen it on my queue, or they want me to put it on my queue too.
They
Netflix
think
does.
you would like
They
it.
think I'd like it, and they're probably right.
I like it too because it's short, so it's not like committing
Yeah.
to a movie.
Yeah.
And it's just like one episode. You can just watch one episode, and it doesn't like you don't have to watch the next one right away. I don't know.
Right,
It's just a
right.
singular standalone thing. I really like it. So
That's
we're
so
having fun with
nice.
that.
I like that because at the end of the night, sometimes I feel like I want to watch a show with the kids. But if
Mhm.
it's a long show, it's really hard to cut it in half. My kids
Oh, I know.
it's so hard. Even if
I
we
know.
at the beginning, right out front, we say, kids, we're doing this for 20 minutes, no matter how
Yep.
long the show is. They're all like, yep, totally
Yep.
fine. Not a problem. 20
Yep.
minutes in, we turn it off, and it's just the worst.
I know.
So,
I know. This is 40 minutes, so it's a
Okay.
little longer. But
it's something.
Jeremy was gone he had been gone for like 5 days, and so that's when we need to watch a show at night.
Yeah.
And the kids are like, "Can we watch a movie?" And I'm like, "No." So this
Yeah,
was our
right.
option. I mean, we need something short
Definitely.
and that we all like. So
Absolutely.
this was good for that.
Good.
Yeah.
Yay.
So
Can't wait to watch it.
thank you everybody for listening to our show. We appreciate it so much. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Homeschool Unrefined, or you can go to our website where you can listen to our episodes, or you can find links to things that we talked about, and that is homeschoolunrefined.com. So we will see you next week.
Thanks for listening. Homeschool Unrefined was created by Maren Gorse and Angela Sizer. Thanks to Gambler's Daughter for providing the music for our show. You can find Gambler's Daughter at facebook.com/gamblersdaugghtermusic.